All right. Welcome to a special intro for episode 4 of the Shane Talks podcast. There's a real intro once the actual podcast gets started, but I want to do something special with this one because there's a lot going on. First of all, this episode is the Star Wars episode. It was recorded on May 4th on Star Wars Day, so it's about 3 weeks old now. But I wanted it to be the fourth episode because I like stuff like that. Um, the episode starts off with two short Star Wars videos that Jason and I made back in, I think it was like 2002, 2003, somewhere around there. After episode 2 came out, I had plans for writing a Star Wars short film because I wanted to enter it into the competition for Celebration 3. Never ended up happening. We did a lot of pre production stuff, but Jason and I filmed 2 tests for lightsabers. So I threw those on at the beginning of this. Then near the very end of the podcast, Jason brings up a Star Wars film that I did back in like 1988. It was what I consider my first ever directorial and acting debut. Um, when he brought that up, I reached out to my dad. My dad ended up spending time digitizing our old VHS tapes to get me the footage. I took the 12 raw minutes of footage that we shot, I cut it down into a 5-minute coherent-ish story where I play Han Solo and my brother plays Chewbacca, and we are on the crappiest ever built Millennium Falcon. I'm calling it the lowest ever budget Star Wars fan film ever made. Um, Jason has thrown out the idea suggesting that I Lucas it up and add special effects to the entire thing, so I'm considering doing that later. Um, but if you're listening to the audio version of this, the first couple of minutes, you're just going to hear sound effects before the actual podcast starts. And you don't need to stick around for the last 5 minutes because it's all just me and my brother talking gibberish that won't make sense if you're not watching the video. So I just wanted to fill you in on all the cool little stuff we got going on this episode. Now I will just let the actual episode begin. So here you go. This is episode 4. Happy May the 4th. May the 4th be with you. Thank you for listening. If you're listening right now, you're probably thinking to yourself, Shane, May the 4th was like 2 weeks ago. You're not wrong, but we're Tarantinoing this episode, and it's actually being recorded on April 4th. Grabbing a bunch of my Star Wars friends to do this episode with me. But since episodes 2 and 3 have already been planned out, this episode recorded on May the 4th will be the 4th episode that we actually put out there in the world. So it's May the 4th for us. It's not for you, but just enjoy us celebrating Star Wars, even though it's a little bit late for you guys. First thing I want to say on May the 4th is happy second anniversary to my friends Steve and Amanda. They picked May the 4th to get married on because of Star Wars. Super awesome for them. Happy 2 years. Looking forward to many more years celebrating with you guys. At Steve and Amanda's wedding, because it was a May the 4th wedding, I got to rock some R2-D2 socks, my R2-D2 tie, and I had 2 or 3 other R2-D2 pieces with me that day to celebrate their wedding. So that was a lot of fun. So it's May the 4th, 2020. My day celebrating. Let's see. I wrote down everything I did. Since about 8 o'clock this morning, I've been watching the Scum and Villainy Cantina live stream. It is a bar in California that was replicated to look like the Mos Eisley Cantina. They're on Hollywood Boulevard. It's somewhere I hope to visit someday, but they've been doing a 24-hour live stream. They've had people like Greg Grunberg on there, Chloe Dykstra. They did an hour interview with Leonard Maltin. So it's been a lot of fun watching their stuff. Kevin Smith is on now. Him and Mark Bernardin are watching Empire Strikes Back and commentating on it. So they've done a lot of cool stuff today. I played some Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2 today. I also tossed in the newest Battlefront game, played some of that. And then I have watched episode 4 and 5 today. I watched Star Wars and Empire, and then went and spent some time with the family before doing this. So that was how I celebrated today, and now I'm looking forward to a little while talking with these awesome friends of mine about their Star Wars experiences. We got a bunch of Star Wars topics to discuss, but first I want to know how everybody else celebrated their day. Chris, why don't you take it away first? Tell us how you celebrated Star Wars Day.
Yeah, we had a pretty good day. My son, my older son, 5-year-old Bennett's, during the day still going over his grandparents. They're part of our social distancing circle. So to surprise him, as he's also a huge Star Wars fan, we set up all of his Fisher Price little people that he has. They're about this big. He's got numerous Star Wars figures, and he's got an AT-AT, which is behind me here. He's got the Millennium Falcon. He's got a Operation Endor set. So we set up various scenes from all movies. Favorite scenes, they had that, and then probably my favorite part of the day so far is I made blue milk. So he had that waiting when he came home. So we had that with dinner. Pretty simple recipe: coconut milk, ice cream, and blue raspberry slushy from the spoon. Just put that all in the blender. Pretty little coconut concoction.
That sounds delicious. I wish I would have made that today.
So it was really good. I definitely would recommend it. And then we finished the evening, just watched the end of The Force Awakens, and my wife is right now in the other room watching The Last Jedi.
That's awesome. Andrew, what about you? What'd you do today?
I was watching bits and parts of 4 and 5 today. Nice. And then I watched the last episode of the Clone Wars, which I have to say is a phenomenal show. If you haven't seen it, watch it. It's a great show. So
I unfortunately have not watched the last 2 seasons. When it went to Netflix, I didn't get to watch season 6. Not that I didn't get to. I didn't make time to watch season 6, and I have not caught up yet to watch the final season. So I should have been doing that today, but I was really pretty lazy. What about you, Jay? What'd you do today?
Well, I'm essential. Are we talking to Jason Jay or me, Jay?
No, Jae Hampton Jay.
Oh, dude, don't say my last name now. I'm going to get stalkers.
Oh, good call.
So I'm essential, so I had to work.
Ooh.
So I practiced May the 4th by, being on my wonderful work computer as well, and pretending that I was force choking my customers.
I believe that.
Yeah, so it was definitely it was like talking to Jar Jar for hours.
Samir, what'd you guys do today?
Oh, well, it started actually last night. We started watching episodes 1, 2, and 3 and had a great time. Fell asleep during 3 because it was the middle of the night at some point in time.
Sure.
Woke up today. Woke up today. We watched Clone Wars. We watched Solo. We watched we just watched Rise of Skywalker.
Wait, and why were you watching Mario Van Peebles?
Huh?
Solo. Why did you watch Mario Van Peebles' cult classic Solo?
Sorry, Solo it's delicious. I'm sorry, it's a good movie. I like that one.
With Mario Van Peebles, right?
I don't think he's getting your joke. He's too Star Wars focused to get your joke.
I'm a Marine. We improvise. You know,
you gotta love him. It's Mario Van Peebles.
And that was Sonny Spoons, motherfucker. That was Sonny Spoons. Don't.
All right, Dave. Dave, what'd you guys do?
We had the TBS marathon running all day.
Oh, okay.
The 2 little boys, my 2 sons, 10 and 7, were playing Battlefront.
Oh, nice.
And when I signed in, I teach sixth grade, so I signed in virtually and had homeroom, and we all celebrated the fourth. We all wished each other a happy fourth, and all the kids are all pumped over Star Wars. The big thing this year in my class was The Mandalorian. That's what every kid would come in on Monday. You know, they'd all be sharing it on Monday mornings, and they'd all be talking about it. And then you have the kids that hadn't seen it yet, all screaming, "No, stop, stop!" So, you know, there's 24 kids running around talking, half of them talking about it because they saw it, and the other half running away because they didn't want to hear about it. So
that's awesome.
It's a pretty big thing still. I mean, that's sixth grade, and the kids are still pumped and watching the movies. So it's awesome.
Jason, you want to unmute yourself and tell us what you did?
Hi, baby.
Well, I brought Luke Skywalker on the call.
Nice.
But yeah, we hung out. We watched the first 2 episodes of Star Wars Rebels.
Nice.
My son Nicholas loves playing Galaxy of Heroes, the Star Wars game.
Yep.
On his iPad, and he got more into Star Wars now through that video game than he did with watching it when I was showing it to him. So tonight, while we were watching Spark of Rebellion, that the first 2 episodes of Rebels, he was like, "Oh my gosh, that's the Ghost," and then like, "That's Ezra," and he's like, "I've got that guy on the game," and so like now he's making a lot more connections. And so I told him we'd only watch one episode, the first episode, but it's a 2-parter. And so like the moment it said "to be continued," he was like, "Dad, come on, let me watch the next one." Like, watch that one, and then we're going to bed. And then Luke did not listen. So that's why Darth Vader answered the phone at the beginning.
That's how I parent.
It's driving me nuts.
Jason, can you ask him about ice cream? Can he do the ice cream thing again? Because that just cracked me up.
If you ask him, "Hey, Luke, come here."
I'm glad I'm outside because nobody's having ice cream right now. So Talia, my youngest, let me see if I can find her. Her middle
You want some
name
ice cream?
is JYN.
What's ice cream? No, do it again. What's ice cream?
That looks delicious.
Hey, up here.
So I got my wife well enough pregnant that she allowed me to name the youngest. Her middle name is Jin. JYN.
Awesome.
So,
we talked about what we did today, celebrating Star Wars. Now I want to jump back, and I want to know everybody's first Star Wars memory, whether it was watching it in the theaters or what your first Star Wars movie was. What is your first Star Wars memory that you have? And we'll start with Jason this time.
The first Star Wars memory I can remember is my parents took us while we lived in Germany to it was selling out like crazy. It was the movie theater that was on the base in Germany, and all I remember is my mom and I in the back. I don't know if we were standing or sitting. And while we were in the back, I just remember the green and red lightsaber battle at the end of Return of the Jedi.
Nice.
It's the very first movie that I can actually like really remember. So then besides that, we used to, Dave can attest to this. A friend of Dave and my brother Michael had a bootleg of Return of the Jedi, so we were watching bootlegs of it too around that same time because we didn't get the movies in Germany until almost like a year later, Dave?
Yeah, it was anywhere from 6 to 12 months later, depending. So the bootleg that we watched, literally, you could see like the guy was sitting in the front row of the theater, and it was like the video camera. He snuck it in. It was pretty bad.
Oh wow. So Dave, your first memory, does it predate that?
It predates it by a lot because in Yarmouth, when I was only, I would have been 5. No, I had already turned 6. A New Hope in Yarmouth, Mass. My parents took us, and it's funny because I was telling my youngest today what I remember because the scene came on this morning when we were watching it. was the scene that I vividly remember the most out of that experience was the trash compactor and the eye that pops up and like looks around. That that's the most I remember the whole movie. And what was cool was I was working at Clearwater in at the time they re-released the original trilogy. If you guys remember, they re-released the trilogy, and none of the kids working there believed me that I was actually alive when the first movie came out.
Oh, wow.
Way back when. They were all stunned that somebody could actually, be walking around that was that old. So.
All right, Samir, what about you? What's your first Star Wars memory?
It was Empire back in 1980.
Okay.
And I remember went to the theater that was off of Ditch Road. And it was just north of the Speedway gas stations there now. And I went and saw that. I was 3 years old.
Nice.
I remember, like, that was my first movie, like,
That's
in my
awesome.
life. So, I just fell in love with every single moment of it. And it went back. And I think after that, Jay and I and my brother shaved sticks off a couple years later and ground them down into spears and started fighting each other over when we went to go see Return of the Jedi.
Nice.
So we were out in the front yard and eating crab apples and sharpening sticks and pieces of what was that erector sets and
beating the daylights out of those kids who were being little Nazis. They throwing tacks at people.
Yeah.
All right, Jay. So what about you?
Oh, it was definitely Star Wars Christmas. My favorite thing. Star Wars Christmas.
I still watch it every year.
The whole songs that went along with it. I mean, it's something that you can dance to and feel the Force with.
Hey, and B. Arthur, you can't beat that. So.
Yeah.
Come on, what are you gonna do? Honestly, I can remember the movie theater that I went to, which is now it was known as Second Avenue for a little while, where a lot of punk bands went. But right off of Shadeland and Pendleton Pike, there was a Dairy Queen. There was an Airway, which that's how long ago it was before it became Target, and it was Eastgate Theater. And
I remember that one.
Yeah, just seeing those movies there, and it was like an Apollo and a Bijou. It was like two screens before they started having all these multiplexes, and seeing the movies there. And I think Empire was my first movie because that's my first real memory is just
nice.
Having the orange flight suit. Because Luke had that on more often.
Mm-hmm.
In Star Wars, you didn't really get to see him a whole lot. He was in his little white and leggings and everything like that, running around, and then he was a stormtrooper. But I mean, I had all the action figures. I remember taking my favorite with my great grandmother, and before she passed away, I gave it to her to make sure. Well, gave it her that, and then whiskey that I had snuck into the home to try and make sure that she was happy, and she, yeah.
That's awesome.
Jay had all the toys. All the toys.
Nice.
I did not have all the toys. I had an AT-AT.
Jealous of them still.
I had an AT-AT.
You had all the toys. Whatever.
I had an AT-AT. That was it. It was that little kid the way that I had the Millennium Falcon that, I wanted to take from him. But
I wanted the Millennium Falcon myself. But you had all the toys.
I never go next week. I had
Peter. You had the G.I. Joes. All
right, we're not talking about G.I. Joe. We're gonna jump to Chris. We're gonna jump to Chris's memory, and I'm saving Drew for last on this one because his memory is gonna make all of us feel old. So I want to know Chris is next.
Yeah. So mine is toy related. I remember in the late '80s, my dad from a garage sale got the Hoth Battle Station, and
nice.
I really didn't have any idea what it was at the time, but just knowing that I had it with the action with it, and it really kickstarted everything for me. And then Just started with the toy obsession.
Oh,
Did the battle station come with a bunch of toys, or was it just the set? Oh, good. That's awesome.
It was the battle station with a bunch of
With the toys.
figures,
Awesome.
which I wish I still had.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
All right, Drew. Make us all feel old. What's your first memory?
So, coincidence, this actually happened while Jason Maier, my uncle, was living out here in Quincy, Mass. And my dad and I were watching his dogs, Drake and Kaylee, for the weekend or something like that. In 2008, it's when the animated movie came out. The Clone Wars movie came out.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember sitting there and watching it, and I was like, this is the best thing ever. Ahsoka Tano they just introduced. They introduced all these new characters, Captain Rex, everybody. And then the next day, my dad took me to a toy store, and I got Captain Rex and Obi-Wan Kenobi action figure, and I just fell in love with Star Wars after that.
That's awesome.
So-
You actually are a big part of one of my Star Wars memories. Being born in 1999, your dad, after you were born and he came back to work, Star Wars Episode 1 was out, and when your mother left the hospital, she brought you straight to the movie theater to see Dave, and I just happened to be working with him that day. So while Episode 1 was out, I got to see little baby Drew for the first time.
You know, Shane, I have the ultimate letdown story of Star Wars was before it came out, Phantom Menace, I got 2 tickets to go see it at UA downtown in Indianapolis. Screener copies, and these were like hot to get. And I don't know if you remember this story or not, and I couldn't go.
Yep.
So I gave them to a buddy of mine, Manuel, and he took his friend Mac. So they went to go see the movie downtown at UA, stopped back at Clearwater to thank me for it. And as Manny's going nuts and explaining how much he loved it and he couldn't believe that I gave him the ticket, Matt looked at me and goes, I can't believe they killed Qui-Gon. And I went, it was the ultimate, like, you know, Homer Simpson in the line to go see Star Wars. I couldn't believe he ruined it for me after I gave these guys my free passes to go see.
Well, and I'm the idiot that was at Walmart a month before it came out when I wanted to buy the soundtrack so badly. I bought the soundtrack and looked immediately on the back and saw the final track, or the second to last track, Qui-Gon's funeral.
You're misremembering that. You picked up that CD and I literally said, do not turn it around. Do not read the track listings. And he was like, no, it's fine. It's fine. And he flipped it over and then he went, like,
yes.
I mean, like, we were there at midnight when that soundtrack dropped, man. And he just wouldn't listen to me and he had to turn it around and look at it. And he was like, man, you were right.
I went to that midnight showing myself. I ended up with 16 tickets, reserved tickets.
Woo!
Dude,
from UA over at 96th Street.
So at Clearwater, I saw, we were just talking about this the other night when we did episode 1 of Shane Talks, but I saw the movie I saw a midnight on Wednesday for an employee sneak. I saw the midnight on Thursday. I'm sorry. Yeah, it was Wednesday going into Thursday, Thursday going into Friday. Then I watched it at 3 a.m., 6 a.m. Then I went to work, and then I watched the 11 o'clock on that Friday night. So in the matter of like 48 hours, I had watched the movie 5 different times. It was insane.
I would say, working at the movie theater at that time, that's got to be the trailer I've seen the most out of any trailer in the history of movie trailers. Because do you remember the Shane? We'd like run into whatever theater was playing during the trailers, and we'd all watch it, whether we were up in the booth or we'd run into the back of the auditorium. I swear, I've never seen a trailer that many times in my entire life.
Totally agree with you, because I know it was on all of our prints of The Matrix. So anytime The Matrix was starting up, you'd be like, Shane, Matrix and whatever, and we would just jet in there.
We'd have walkies, and we'd call each other to let them know, and you'd see us all running over to the theater to watch it again.
And strangely, I think Manny Villalta.
Yep.
I think he actually got me in to go see Star Wars, well, episode 1, if you will.
Nice.
We knew each other from blockbuster days.
Oh man.
Oh, good Lord. Wow. Thanks. Makes us all feel old. Thanks. Thank you. Yeah. Hey, Chris. For
So
you.
I want
Sorry,
to
I'm
know.
gonna-
I want to know everybody's favorite film out of the 10 of them or whatever. Oh, Jason,
That
what's
was
up?
not a question.
No, I have a question.
Okay, all right, we'll take questions.
Chris has a BB-8 unit behind him that seems like a juxtapose of a couple of different items there. What's going on with that?
So this is a custom build.
Holy crap, look at all this stuff.
Sorry. It's a custom build.
No, we're looking at your stuff.
So yeah, it's from Star Wars Galaxy's Edge at Walt Disney World, the Droid Depot. So
Okay.
this is I call it ME3K. My son calls it BB Bennett.
Nice.
It's his design. It's all custom. So it's a good thing for families to do together.
You can put it together yourself then.
Yeah, you pick out all the pieces, the various parts to it. The insides, it's actually got a motion chips too. So
Nice.
Resistance, you can get a first order, or just a kind of a scoundrel that it makes different noises based on that. What's really cool is it interacts with Galaxy's Edge itself. So as you're walking around, my son got a backpack to carry him in that flips up, so you just see his head. So
That's cool.
you interact with other droids, he will talk and he'll make different noises based on where you are in the land, and how he's feeling. So it's pretty cool.
That's
That is
pretty
insane.
Yeah,
This is awesome. Like we were looking at your stuff in the background, so all my stuff is basically hidden. Yeah, upstairs. So we'll walk up there later.
I was gonna say you've got quite a few large Lego sets that you have put together.
No, I have not. No, a lot of them I have not put them together. So I've got the big boy Falcon
Right.
Okay.
still in the box.
Okay. But
Yeah.
haven't you built some of your Star Destroyers?
A couple of them, but they're kind of hidden in the back.
Okay.
I would say 90% of my Legos are all still in a box right now.
Okay. All right.
So I love them, and I want to build them. And we're gonna do a build today, but we got busy
Nice.
with schoolwork because school. Yeah. But we're gonna do a build today. We might do one tomorrow or Wednesday or whatever. But I want to do a build for May the 4th. So
Sure.
yes, May
Jay,
the 4th.
you said you had a question. What's Jay's question?
Oh, no, I didn't have a question.
Oh.
I said, how is that a question? Everybody
Nice.
knows what the best movie is.
Nice
And
lightsaber.
Yeah, but we're not talking about best
We're not
movie.
talking
We're talking
about
about your
your
favorite.
favorite one.
Difference.
Yes, good call, Jason.
You know what, Jay?
Jason, did you have a question?
Oh no.
No question? Okay. Cool.
No, Jay was at my wedding, and he had to be an usher because I didn't know him as long as the other people that I grew up with.
Mhm.
So even though we met in like 5th grade or first grade, no, kindergarten, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
So I still have this from being an usher, and I was less of an usher, but more just I got to walk his mom, which I thought that was like the best honor ever. Because
That is
if you've
awesome.
ever met Samir's mom, she is totally cool. But he pulled out the trunk and said, "Hey, everybody, grab lightsabers."
See,
Blind girl.
the bedroom was
He had his purple one because he likes to think that he's Mace. Let's face it, he kind of is.
He is pretty much Mace. I call him my Chewbacca. That's my nickname for him.
I've always been Chewbacca.
But he definitely has more of a Mace vibe to him than Chewbacca.
But then he says, "Hey, pick," and everybody seemed to grab their lightsaber very quickly, and I chose. It was kind of like it was given to me by the Force of whatnot. And this blue lightsaber came about, which, let's face it, I've always been old. If you met me, I'm a grumpy old person, and I've always been very Obi-Wan. And this was before Ewan McGregor took over. I liked Sir Alec Guinness because he was.
He wants to stand behind you.
All right, no, sit with me. Come here.
I was just a grumpy person like that, and I always liked Obi.
There we go.
Oh, there's the mace lightsaber.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there's a purple one.
Nice.
Obi was the man.
Do you remember the lightsaber battle we had by Stone Creek in Zionsville?
Yes, which scared a bunch of people, and then we had another one outside of Fox and Hound.
Yes.
Your wife ran up and said, "Hey,
yes.
We're gonna have photos," and so I stopped and held off, and then you whacked me in the eye.
My bad.
That's okay.
That's a lot of lightsaber fun. All right, so Meek, tell me your favorite film. Not necessarily what you think is the best one, but what your favorite one is.
So my favorite is actually Rogue One.
Okay.
All of them. I just think
now it's red.
Setup. I mean, knowing what's going to happen, I think the way that they set it up, because everybody knows. For the most part, everybody who's watching it knows what's going to happen and how it's going to end.
Sure.
I think the anticipation throughout the entire movie to get to that point is great. I love the relationship between Jin and Caspian. I think they did a job throughout, just kind of getting you ready for what's to come in and I loved every minute of that movie, seeing it in the theaters, and I love rewatching it. I think it's got great replay value as well, and I can't wait to be able to continue to
There's 2 chips in there.
My sons as they age to help them make the connection to the movies and make it more. So yeah, that's my
very nice. Drew, what about you? What's your favorite of the movies?
I would have to go with episode 4, because whenever it's on, I can just sit down and watch it with my dad, and we have a fun time watching it all the time, and we get along while watching it.
Nice. Jay, episode 4 for you, I assume?
No.
Okay.
Empire.
Okay, nice.
I mean, Empire was the true New Hope, if you think about it. You know, everything was going down, and then that's when you started realizing that he could be a Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't some, this could possibly happen, where the pawn moves in to become the queen. It is the true utmost concept of life and overcoming tragedy to fight on. It's the human spirit.
I like it. I like that analogy or that analyzation of the movie. Samir, what about you?
I would have to go. Jedi.
Okay. For what?
There are multiple reasons. It was much like Jay. It was that resounding force of after Empire. That resounding force of, the little guy can still make it and do it together. And then there were short, furry midgets. Can't go wrong there. So, but I mean, you think about, I look at some of the other Star Wars movies and I'm like, well, the Ewoks destroyed those. That was not a problem. But it was that resounding force of completion, I think.
Okay.
Of knowing, who your father is, exactly, where you land in the universe. And it was seeing all your old friends that have passed away. It was just a huge, for me emotionally, watching that in the theater when I was a kid was a huge thing for me.
Can I ask you a question?
Yep.
Were you as pissed off as I was when they switched over and put Hayden Christensen in there as the fucking blue?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Because first of all, if we want to address this real quick, transubstantiation is supposed to be the point at which you become one with the Force. He did not hit that point until he was on his deathbed, so there was absolutely no reason whatsoever for Hayden Christensen to have been, because when he was Hayden Christensen, he was an evil son of a bitch and did not deserve to be transubstantiated.
He
Therefore,
wasn't just a son of a bitch. He was a whiny bitch. Let's be honest.
Yeah, thank you.
who
Yeah,
also,
that's better.
who also,
That's
according to
the
Drew's
reason why I
photo,
love my
murdered a
wife.
bunch of children.
That's
Right. Who hasn't married a bunch of children, or who hasn't, murdered a bunch of children? That's neither here nor there. But no, one more reason why I love my wife, who I got blessed to be married to,
I
after
love your
6
shirt, by the way. No, she's wearing the other one. The Hogwarts.
Yeah, so she just screamed from downstairs. She's like, "It was blasphemous!" So
Nice. Very nice. All right, Jason, your favorite movie?
My favorite movie is definitely A New Hope. I've realized over the years that I am a purist and that I love the beginnings of things more so than the conclusions of them, which always seem to be somewhat of a letdown. But for the most part, the Fellowship of the Ring is my favorite Lord of the Rings movie. Almost always the first movie is almost always the best for me, or my favorite of the series. I will have to say that, from a writing and directing standpoint, I still believe that Empire is probably the best movie that was ever made for the Star Wars saga. But yeah, I definitely think that I know A New Hope's my favorite, and it literally is like,
I cried when I left Empire.
When anybody asks me what's my favorite movie, my go-to is always A New Hope, and it's like I haven't wavered on that in probably 15 years now.
It's clear.
My favorite.
3 years old, and I cried when I left that movie. That was my first movie in the theater, ever. And I think that's my problem, is that I did not enjoy watching the good guys lose, I suppose.
Sure.
As a kid.
All right, Dave, your favorite?
I'm going with Samir. It's Jedi, and for me, it was an experience. As a kid at that age, I was 11 years old, and I collected the Topps Return of the Jedi cards way before the movie came out. My mom we begged to go see that movie. My brother Michael, who's a year younger than me, but 8 years older than Jason, we begged to go to the movie, and she's like, "I'm not standing in line." We said, "We'll do it." So my son now is 10. I can't imagine driving up to a movie theater, dropping him off, leaving him with $20 and saying, "I'll pick you up in a few hours." But she dropped me and my 11 and 10-year-olds off at the Nickelodeon movie theater in Falmouth, Mass. And we stood in line. It was a big line, and it was just the experience of. And as soon as the movie started, and we're like, "Oh shit, I got that card. Look at that. Oh man, I got that card."
Nice.
And then it was the whole thing. And then we that was the year we moved to Germany, as Jason had said. So we got to see it again because they were about 6 months to a year behind. So we were standing in line deep because we were going to go see this movie again. It wasn't like now, you see a movie 2 or 3 times if you really wanted to in the theater. We saw it once, went to Germany, and I'll never forget sitting in the auditorium with Mike, and I was like, "Mike, you know what comes next?" This is and the GI next to us told us because he hadn't seen the movie. It was a whole experience that
you want to say bye?
It was just. It wraps the whole thing. The movie, I love the Jabba scene at the beginning. That's great. And I gotta say, I watched the on TBS today they had it, and of course it was the redone one.
Yeah.
And the Sarlacc looks horrible, but Jedi. I'm with Samir. Jedi is just a movie.
So let's talk about the 1997 editions. It was awesome to actually see them back on the big screen because I'd grown up with VHS tapes of them that were recorded off HBO. So the majority of my life, I thought HBO made these Star Wars movies because all 3 of our tapes started with the HBO logo. The feature presentation thing. Nice. Very nice. So 1997 was cool. Like, oh, wow, I get to watch these in the theaters again. It's going to be really awesome to, see them on the big screen. But then they kind of... There are some things I enjoy. I enjoy what they did to Cloud City. I think they made Cloud City look a lot better. But there are other things where, the whole Greedo shooting first situation, or, Like you said, the Sarlacc looked terrible. Like there was other choices that they made where I was just like, why did you have to change that? How did you in 1997? How did you guys feel about the remastered editions?
Well, me personally, I will tell you, I am not a big fan, and that's like what Greedo did not shoot for.
Nope.
That's no.
My favorite shirt is the shirt that says Han shot. Period. There's no Han shot first. There's no Greedo shot. Like Han shot. Period. Yes. That was the only thing that happened.
Yeah, because there was no other shooting.
There was no other shooting.
And nobody's neck moves like that.
Terrible.
Yeah.
By the way.
See, I think that's where some of us got lucky is that I got to see Star Wars on the big screen repeatedly because they kept re-showing them. You know, I didn't have a VCR growing up or a VHS or what have you, or Betamax as it were. It was quite some time.
That was your dad's choice.
Yeah, but you know, we still went to go see the movie because it was replayed over and over again. So you could always find, you know, showings. You know, I think I saw Jedi again at a drive-in before it was even released again. You know, so it was cool to see those sort of things that happened.
But one thing I thought was decent on the remakes was the extra scene you got to see in Hoth when Luke got captured. I thought that scene was okay.
Yeah,
you know, they showed the extra. There was a little extra footage.
Yep.
I think that was decent. Like you said, Bespin was decent, but a lot of it, yeah. I think Samir said it was the whole Jabba scene was just like, oh.
Yeah. The added musical number was terrible.
Yeah.
Both of them. The one in the because I loved the Cantina originally.
Oh yeah.
Oh wait, no. Sorry, Cantina didn't change. It was Return of the Jedi. Yeah, they changed the beginning song at Jabba's palace.
Yes.
And then they changed the song at the end, the victory song.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Both of those. Horrible.
Kind of cool to see the celebrations in the different places at the end of that.
That was
right?
a good addition.
I would agree.
When they were knocking down, didn't they knock down the statue of the Emperor? Yeah, that was kind of. I mean, that was something.
And that was our first look at Coruscant that we ever got because they threw the Coruscant stuff in there. I'm sure it was just like templates they were using for Episode 1, but it was cool to see. Oh, when Episode 1 came out, it was like, oh, I know Coruscant. I saw it at the end of Return of the Jedi's special edition.
I really feel like Dave and I have a connection now. I feel exactly what you're talking about. Like everything you're talking about, I'm 100% behind you on it. It's 100%. Like,
here's my question.
So Dave, you were working at Clearwater in '97, right?
Yeah, I was working at Clearwater when all three movies. I think didn't they come out January, February, and March? They came out like a month apart to give them some legs.
Yep.
And like I said, what I think I mentioned earlier, there were kids that were ushering that night, and they were like, "Oh, look at this is awesome!" And I was like, "I saw this back in when it first came out," and they couldn't believe it. But it was crowded. It really was at Clearwater. Yeah, it was
crowded.
What I was
going to ask was how busy it was when they came out.
It was really busy the first week or two, and then it started to peter out a little bit because I think your hardcore fans saw it a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's still an experience seeing it on screen.
Oh, sure.
But I remember it wasn't in the big house at Clearwater. I want to say, if I remember correctly, it was like in Theater 3, which is decent. But it shows like it's sold out. But I think I can't remember what was going head to head at the time.
Right.
But it wasn't big enough to supplant whatever was playing at that time.
Chris, did you see him in theaters?
Yeah, that's the first memory I have actually seeing Star Wars in movie theaters.
Nice.
Remastered. So, I mean, to that effect, they have a special place for me. But I agree with the sentiment that a lot of you have with some of the added the Jabba scene and some of the other distractions. That kind of take away from what the originals had, because I do remember distinctly seeing those on.
You want to say hi?
HBO.
Okay.
There's
Hey.
Well, I didn't want to interrupt. Sorry.
Are you having a good May the 4th?
Sure, yeah.
Nice.
I had to work today, but other than that,
well,
great.
That sucks.
I was going to try and very discreetly ask Samir if you want me to put dinner away or are you still going to eat?
I don't know yet.
It's on you to put it away.
Oh.
Okay. Have fun, guys.
Oh, great. Thanks, guys.
So obviously we all know that the original trilogy is the best trilogy. So my question is now, the 1, 2, and 3, are they better than what we just got with 7, 8, and 9?
Ooh.
No, there's no way. Because what was the one that we saw at the theater? 8. Terrible.
Yeah.
We're in a piece of shit.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That's like the worst story possible.
I will start this and flat out say that I do not like 7, 8, and 9 at all, and that I much prefer 1, 2, and 3 over them.
1, 2, and 3 are the best.
No.
No, they're 1, 2, and no.
4, 5.
Actually, not 1, but definitely 2 and 3. 3 for sure.
2's a love story.
Yeah, 2's a love story. Good job, dear.
2 would be a love story if they got actors who could act like they're in love.
Well, but is that the actor's fault or is that George Lucas's fault? Because I've seen Hayden Christensen in Life is a House and Glass, and Hayden Christensen's a phenomenal actor.
Like,
If he's
hey,
given a crap script, that's not his fault that his director tells him, say these stupid lines.
Because sand, it gets everywhere.
Has he aged as an actor and gotten
Listen.
better because of the
You better think
feedback
about yourself.
from?
I you know what? I'm sorry, dear. I still feel like 7 and 9 are both. 7 definitely is a solid film. 9 is, it finishes everything up. You know, it's like
9, 9 was J.J. Abrams doing his best to fix 8.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Had JJ been able to do 7, 8, and 9, I feel like they probably would have been a much more cohesive and better story.
It was
I don't know if I
terrible.
could. I don't know. Would it be cohesive? You know, they'd have a bunch of lens flare and everything would be all like bullshit.
I have no problem with lens flares. There's suns out in outer space and there's shiny reflective objects, so lens flares are a thing that happen in reality.
I really
They
dislike
clean up
2 and 3.
Okay.
Like 2 and 3, I really dislike on repeated viewings. I think what was it, like right before episode 9 came out, I watched episode 3 again. I was like, it can't be as bad as I remember it being, and I can't stand the progression of him going down that rabbit hole of turning evil. It's like really bad, like writing and directing. I will take 7 and 9 over 2 and 3 any day,
Okay.
but 8 is by far the worst movie for me. Like,
So
Look, sorry, I gotta say, think of 3, and no one knew. I mean, you knew that he was turning, but that Execute Order 66, that kicked you in the gut. Because, like,
Yeah,
and I mean, Drew's got the thing behind him, but as soon as they said Execute Order 66, and you just saw the shit go down, tell me, everybody, even if you hated that movie, the first time you saw that, you were like, holy crap. That was unbelievable.
that was
Like,
a
how were
very
they gonna make
effective
that happen?
moment.
Dave, you're right, because it set up everything from all the cartoons and everything from there.
Yep.
It all right up. Like, I think Executing 66 was a huge portion of that entire movie. Like, that was the biggest part of it.
And
Yeah,
and
for
even-
that, I give the first 3 props.
Sure, and even on top of that, Order 66 like just resonates like through everything because the most recent Fallen Jedi video game, there's a moment in the storyline of that where you hit the Execute Order 66 moment, and you're like, holy crap! I didn't realize like that's when this game takes place. Is like now these stormtroopers are trying to kill me because I'm a Jedi.
Yeah.
So that when I hit that point in the video game, I was like, I really like this tie-in all the way back to those movies.
Shut up, a best video game.
I have to hands down say that Episode 1 has the best lightsaber duel
Oh,
of
yeah.
all 9 movies. As great as the first trilogy was, Episode 1 has the absolute greatest lightsaber battle I have ever seen put on film. The Clone Wars, I've seen some good animated lightsaber battles, but as far as a live action lightsaber battle, nothing compares to the Duel of Fates for me.
Hold on a second. Okay.
So, at what point in time do we start to realize that maybe this movie wasn't made for us? Maybe the 1, 2, and 3
are made for the murder hornets.
Wait, no, maybe it's a situation where we grew up with 4, 5, and 6, and now we're trying to look at, hey, why the fuck are people listening to Leif Garrett? We just listen to Led Zeppelin, and it's like a generational thing, like. Because let's face it, 1, 2, and 3, that was George Lucas trying to say, hey, I'm going to squeeze this into a kid's movie. But we grew up with this kind of like gritty sort of, play by the seat of your pants, trying to do all these great things. And then all of this technology came about and it looks refined. But do you really think that some 8-year-old is going to fucking listen to blabbity schmabbity do if it's not? I mean, look at the movies that came out around then. Aragon, that was CGI and that flopped. If Star Wars didn't have the name that it did, would those have actually become what they were? Do you see what I'm saying?
I do, and I will tell the story that the moment you're talking about for me was in 2012 when they re-released Episode 1 in 3D. Jason and I went and watched it in 3D, and obviously I went because I wanted to see the lightsaber battle, because I'm one of the people who really doesn't like Jar Jar at all. But I went to watch the movie. And
nobody likes Jar Jar.
I know. Jason and I are sitting in the movie theater, and I'll tell you what, Samir, every kid in that theater was laughing at the top of their lungs at every word that Jar Jar Binks said. And I'm looking around at Jason like, why do these kids find this funny? And that was the moment for me where I realized George Lucas didn't make this movie for my generation and our generation. He made it for kids in 1999. He made it for 9-year-olds in 1999 who needed some comedic CGI stupid character to make them laugh. And that's the moment for me where I went, okay, like, I have to appreciate the fact that episodes 1, 2, and 3 are not written for my generation of diehard fans.
Do you have to appreciate that fact, or is that just another reason just to say fuck millennials?
I mean, it's kind of How I Met Your Mother.
Go to his job.
If you ever seen that, bye, go poop. All right.
No, going back to the Jar Jar thing.
What's up, Andrew?
Going back to that Jar Jar thing, whenever I watch it, I just feel like I'm watching some idiot just play a dumbass character.
What age were you when you first saw episode 1?
2.
No, the first memory watching it was
he came to the theater. I dragged him to the theater. He was in the car seat, but it was like.
And we lost Dave's audio.
That's fine. Yeah, he's about 1.
Yeah.
But so the first time you remember actually watching it and can remember watching it and being aware of the Jar Jar Binks character, how old were you?
I was probably around 10 because I was also watching the cartoon series at that time, and I didn't find him funny at all.
Really?
Like, he's just there to fill in space is what I thought George Lucas was doing, was just filling space.
Jar Jar before Ewoks or Ewoks before Jar Jar?
Jar Jar before Ewoks.
Okay.
I like the Ewoks a lot better.
Hey! Jay has come back a lot more attractive than he was when he left us.
I got you back.
So if he makes anybody mad by talking about millennials, we all just remind him that technically he married a millennial.
Ah, that's true.
How old are you?
I'll be 37 in September.
Yeah. Okay. Well.
Technically, I don't act like one. I'm just saying technically.
Oh, no, you don't.
Claire, do you want to take 1 minute to make any statement about Star Wars?
Sure. Star Wars is awesome. The digitally remastered original trilogy is bullshit. They should never have replaced anybody at the end. Jar Jar sucks.
Compared to Jar Jar.
Ewoks are okay, but Jar Jar sucks.
Nice.
I really like the new ones, but I mean, could they have been a little bit more trite with the whole Han being killed by his son? Like, come on.
Show us your shirt.
That awesome shirt! It's all my nerd wrapped up in one.
That's really hard to read on a tiny little itty bitty screen.
Okay, fine. It says, I never received my acceptance letter to Hogwarts, so I'm leaving the Shire to become a Jedi and go where no one has gone before me because you can't take the sky from me.
There we go. Very well read.
Yes.
Nerdy ass shit.
Yeah. I mean, she's got all the great ones all wrapped up in one.
I know, right? Because I am all the great ones all wrapped up in one.
Yeah, I know. You know.
Oh, by the way, Samir, there are some fabulous photos of us dancing at the reception.
All right, Claire, what's your favorite Star Wars character?
Oh.
I sense a segue.
This is the segue to the next question of start to think of who your favorite Star Wars character is.
Can I pick a droid?
You can pick anything you want.
The character.
BB-8.
Awesome.
Or R2-D2.
I was gonna say, if you say IG-88, that would have been awesome.
Or IG-11.
That's too close to people being ID-10Ts, and I can't handle that. So,
Dave, who's your favorite character in the Star Wars universe?
That was tough. I'm going to say Lando, and it's all because of Billy D. Williams. Shane, I don't know if you were with me when we went. That's right. We went to Celebration 2, and I went to go see Lando talk. I mean, Billy D was up on stage, and I'll never forget this kid raises his hand during the question and answer segment, and the guy goes, "Listen, man, you're awesome. I love you." And I just got to ask, like, when you were playing against Han and you put the Millennium Falcon up and you bet the Millennium Falcon, he's going in all this detail, and Billy D stops him and he goes, "Dude, you know it's just a movie, right?" And the crowd just went nuts. Billy D's the man, so I got to go with Lando.
I like it. Jason, your favorite Star Wars character?
I'm a purist, man. It's Luke Skywalker all the way.
Right.
Come on.
Samir, I have a feeling I know where this is going.
Man, you know what black air gonna go for? Come on, seriously. Come on, son. Really? Mace Windu.
Nice. I love it.
He should have just killed the Emperor right there.
He should have killed the Emperor right there.
Yeah, that motherfucker written on your.
Let's get this mother Emperor off.
Right. I'm down.
All right,
I am
Chris?
down.
All right, you guys have fun. I'll see you later.
Bye, Claire. Thanks for stopping by.
I love you. Bye-bye.
So my favorite character is Poe Dameron.
Nice.
Oh.
Okay.
Nice.
He is a very solid character in a trilogy that I don't enjoy, but he is a very solid character.
He did really well in 9.
Yeah, absolutely.
I appreciate his determination to always. He has his mission and his determination to always accomplish it no matter what. I really appreciate him being written that way.
He has one of my favorite moments in all the movies is when he reconnects with Finn, and they have the general moment. And
that was good. Andrew,
it's in between Captain Rex from the animated series.
Good job.
He's a flat out badass when it comes to combat. I mean, nobody can really do anything against him. I just love his character, how gritty he is, and then I'd say Obi-Wan. Ever since I started watching it, I loved Obi-Wan. He's my favorite Jedi of all time.
I'm right there with you on that. Jay, your favorite character? I think earlier you said it was Obi-Wan also.
So I think I related to Obi-Wan. My favorite action figure growing up, because I have color issues in my eyes, and I know that you know that I can only visually see green a lot.
Are you showing me colors?
And listen, little Samuel L. Jackson wannabe mother. Yeah. I loved,
I'll get that ass. Don't worry about that.
And Obi-Wan was always something big for me. But I truly loved Yoda because he was
nice.
and growing up the way I did, Yoda had like a Buddhist vibe to him, and he was very Taoist as well. And so when you start talking about the philosophy of the Force and everything, he was definitely the guy who just spoke of the way. You know, he was the epitome of Jedi, of just reserved awesomeness. Now I know Mace was a Jedi Supreme, but knowing what we know about Jedis, could you really see Samuel L. Jackson being the not quick to anger? Listen, I'm a Jedi. You know,
that's why I like him. He's my Jedi.
Yeah, of course.
You know what?
Yes.
With the whole Yoda thing, though, everybody used to talk about how Episode 2 was so great because of the Yoda lightsaber fight, and I have a little boy not paying attention. Sorry. So, I actually always had a problem with Yoda pulling out a lightsaber and fighting Palpatine. Or, Dooku. Yeah, because it's like, dude, it always seemed to me, like you said, with like his, like the vibe that he gave off, that he would walk into the room, kind of like when he does when he runs into Palpatine in Episode 3, and like the two guards get all like hyped, and then he's just like, he's just like, no, we're not doing this.
When they're gonna execute him, and in 3, when they're gonna execute him in 3, and every other Jedi is getting mowed down, he turns around and is like, zip, zip, see you later.
Yeah, like, dude, he should have, like, when he walked in to the Count Dooku situation, it should have been like he just like literally just grabbed him and like pushed Dooku out of the way, like to just prove that he was just that BA.
Like maybe Yoda could be like the Dolomite of Star Wars. Like we just have somebody like Luke come up and put some powder and just be like, shut up. You know, just like,
it is not Pootie Tang. It is not Pootie Tang. Don't do that.
Yeah, I thought Yoda was way too cool to be pulling out a lightsaber. I thought,
you know what,
I think he would be better than that.
Yeah, he needs one. Honestly, I think Ahsoka and Darth Raven are the ones that need a movie first.
I'll support that. I'm a huge Revan fan. Cheers to that. Yep. So we've talked about Celebration 2 and 3 a couple of times so far. I want to know, I mean, I know for a fact that I went with Jason and Dave. I want to know if Samir, Jay, or Chris, if any of you guys made it to any of the celebrations and any stories you had.
No, but I have a baby Chewbacca costume.
That you take to other cons I've seen photos of.
Yeah, we got a Gen Con, so the girls will go with me. So I have an Ewok and a baby Chewbacca. So the girls go as that, and I go as Mace Windu, usually.
Do you go as Mace Windu, or do you go as just generic Black Jedi?
There's nothing generic about me. Remember that.
I'm just making sure that you always have your purple lightsaber with you.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Which is now red because my girl just mixed up the two because I had blue and red discs to make it that color.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, so she just messed it up. So now it's red. So now I'm evil. Mace Windu.
So Jay, who has now gotten out of the shower in his Jedi robe.
Oh, that's lovely.
Did you make it to any of the celebrations when they were in town?
No, because I don't like people that much, and
that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure that I am almost positive that Samir and I had seen several Star Wars movies together, and the amount of playing with the action figures growing up.
Mm-hmm.
He and Saeed and I just, I mean, that was our thing between G.I. Joe, but Star Wars. In fact, I'm still pretty sure that Saeed is angry at me about some like blaster that was removed from the Jedi Luke, because he even said something years ago. Correct?
Probably. I would agree with you. Yeah. He doesn't grudges go forever until we're done.
I still remember you coming over and you had oh man, he was the Jabba the Hutt guard that was the green pig guy.
Gamorrean guard.
Guardian Guard. Yep.
Yeah.
You brought him over, and that was the first I had seen because we hadn't seen the movie yet, and so they released the figures, at that point in time. And you brought him over, and I was like, "Oh wow, you got this guy! This is awesome!" And we sat and played with the Hoth set that I had, and it wasn't like the actual Hoth set; it was like just the mini one with the droid, and
Yeah. Oh, I remember. Oh God, I remember that.
Jason, real quick, Jason, I want to go back and address your. Well, now you've put them as your background. I wanted to have you show those posters again.
What's he doing?
While you guys were talking, he showed his poster collection off.
Oh, okay.
Which now we can't see because he has a background.
Who is it?
There we go. There we go.
Who's the one?
I don't know what that green thing was.
So those are some very nice original artwork posters.
Oh, those are badass.
Yeah, they are.
Oh, come on, guys.
Really?
Okay, I don't know if you can see this, but I have because my ex-girlfriend, which is how I refer to my wife, got me Easter eggs, but they were all the Yoda and Star Wars stuff. So they have like all sorts of candy and tattoos. And I still haven't opened them.
That's beautiful.
I also worked at Perkins when the first movies came out because I was so I actually won from the claw machine, like all these like old toys.
Wow.
That have like the old like watches with C-3PO and Obi-Wan, and some old like nasty stuff with.
Hey, wait, show the watch again. Can you show the watch again?
I want one.
When I was in second grade, my parents, Jason knows this story, my parents for my birthday gave me a C-3PO and R2-D2 watch. So second grade would have been about 1978, 79.
Good Lord,
and
you're old.
I am old. I got this watch. It was my prized possession, and my brother Michael decided to take it apart to see how it works. And every year to this day, I bust his balls about that.
That's awesome.
And I said I would have had that watch today, and it would have been worth big money. And he goes, he's looked on eBay to replace it, but it's like $300 or $400. And he goes, I don't even know if that thing works or anything.
And Dave, I'm right there with you because we had the old Darth Vader with like the red LED.
Yeah.
And I can't find another one. I've been looking. In fact, when Claire came over, she looked at my computer and goes, "What the hell are you doing?" And I have like a page of Etsy Han Solo DL-44 blasters. And she's like, I swear to God, if you spend money on that. But then again,
she would have rather seen porn on the computer than
you want to see her really pissed off? I just say flamethrower, and she.
I want
one. Some of my greatest memories, now that we're talking about toys, and especially the line that Jay just showed, was Jason and I can't even count the number of times we were in line at midnight at Toys R Us in 99 and 2002 for every toy. Like, that was very early internet, but there was still like fan forums you could go to where they knew what day Toys R Us was releasing the new set of toys at midnight. And I know for episode 1 we were in line at least 4 different times for 4 different releases. And it would be like, I'm going to run to this area. If you see this in the Lego area, grab these for me. What toys do you want from the action figure section? And like, I mean, we were like, there was usually like 4 or 5 of us, and there were hundreds of people there. And then we would all go to separate places, grab a bunch of stuff, and meet back up and decide who wants what that we were able to grab. And
George Lucas was to licensing Star Wars to everything as Samuel Jackson is to movies. So,
yeah,
motherfucker. Put him in this film. Sign it away. I'll do it. No questions asked.
The best is that Jason and my dad's brother has all these Star Wars toys just piled up in his garage, and he still never sells them, and he has it from every Star Wars movie.
From the original trilogy. He was going to sell them all and make $1 million.
It was like the Power of the Force. Is that what the line was called?
That was one of the lines. Yeah.
Yeah, he had a bunch of stuff from that line.
That
And he
should have
still-
been,
I mean,
that
like,
should
he
have been the
still has a ton of
97
stuff.
release. I think Power of the Force was the 97 release.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure a lot of his stuff came from that time frame, but he bought all sorts of different stuff. It's still in boxes. It's up on up on shelves and stuff. He probably spent thousands, but he could easily take those somewhere and probably make, maybe $500 back now.
Well, that was always my problem with toys. Is like I love playing with toys, so every one of my Star Wars toys is open. Every toy I've ever bought. I'm sorry. I have very few toys that I leave in the box. Most of them I open, put them on
And
display.
are you naked, by the way? Because I keep getting a picture of you and not your face. So
No.
it's weird.
Yeah, we addressed that at the beginning.
Oh, no, I know.
Yeah,
But-
just keep looking at me.
I don't.
He's dead.
It's weird. I don't like it. It's not fun.
You'll
It's
get over it.
scary. Oh, there it is again.
Look me in the eye and say Jedi. Look me in the eye and say Boba Fett. Oh, no.
I'm Boba the Fett. I'm bounty up for my head.
So I assume that everybody on here is all caught up on The Mandalorian.
Oh,
Do we feel that
What's
is
the Mandalorian?
that is a great direction for the future of Star Wars?
I mean, Baby Yoda. I mean, how are you mad about that?
Not mad at all. I love The Mandalorian and I love what Favreau did, and I'm a lot more excited about what's going to be coming to Disney Plus, and maybe I'll like Cassian Andor better after I get some Cassian Andor series or something.
It's
Can I-
all
Can I
content.
give my opinion on that?
Yeah, what's up?
Real quick? So I think that the reason why Mandalorian resonated with so many people who really enjoyed the whole concept of Star Wars is because how did Star Wars get its true inspiration?
Space Western.
But it was based off of Japanese cinema.
Okay, sure. Yep.
That's why the whole Shogun sort of Darth Vader, helmet and whatnot. And when you look at basically Mandalorian, it's Usagi Yojimbo.
Okay.
It is the man with no name. It is basically what spaghetti westerns took from the old samurai movies. And so that's where we see a whole concept of the true, maybe not good, maybe not completely clean. It's not the White Knight where, they ride into town where it's all cut and dry. You see somebody who is a little scruffy, maybe a scruffy nerf herder. And they are truly going in there. And I don't know, maybe resonance and retribution. Maybe he is for the bad things. I know that I've done some bad, horrible things in my life. And, when we start seeing through film something that resonates with us, they can kind of. But, that's for you film geeks to understand.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with what you're saying. I think it's a great breakdown of the storytelling narrative.
Yeah, I agree. I
And
mean,
it's very neon as well.
people have been good.
Luke Benson could have, done like an episode of Mandalorian.
Jason, what are you doing?
Nothing.
Okay.
I moved from my couch to my kitchen.
Yeah.
Is it because I mentioned Luke Benson? Yeah.
Oh,
Benson?
totally.
Luc Besson.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not French, so fuck off. So you see like a little kid in trouble, and then you go and blow the fuck out of stuff. Mandalorian.
I'm done. I'm good with that.
So, truth be told, we've honestly hit all the topics that I wanted to discuss on here. Does anybody else have any stories or anything else they want to bring up?
You said somebody had some really cool toys.
That was Brian, who unfortunately wasn't able to make it on here.
Hey, bitch.
Well, you were supposed to take us.
I can take you to a tour.
You were supposed to show us
Yeah,
some
that'd be
Legos.
cool.
Yeah.
Hey, Shane, do you have a picture of you when you dressed up for episode 1?
That is one of my. There are pictures somewhere in this world. I don't know if my parents still have them, but I can't find them in any of my pictures that I have. I have other pictures from '99. For whatever reason, the pictures of me as Darth Maul, I don't have. Also, somewhere on a VHS tape, I have when I got interviewed by Channel 6 or whoever did the interview that morning when we were out there. For those that don't know, Dave and I worked at the movie theater together in '99, and I dressed up as Darth Maul for the overnight of the episode 1. Like, our theater did 24 hours of Star Wars from midnight to midnight. We had showings. So at like 10 p.m., 2 hours before the first one, I showed up at work wearing my Darth Maul costume. Stayed all night, overnight. Around 5 or 6 in the morning, I got interviewed by a news station. I have that on VHS somewhere, possibly still with my parents, but the photos that were taken that night, I know they exist, I just don't know where they are.
I did that to my roommate back in 1999 for a Colts game against the Buffalo Bills, and ended up doing halftime, like the opening of the game, and then end the game.
Nice.
So it's RCA Dome. So let me see if I can get up here. And, hold on, let me flip down.
I know Brian isn't here to show off his toys, but he does have a life-size Yoda that he used to hide in front for his roommate when he was living with Dan.
Oh,
and
nice.
they'd hide it into the closet and whatnot and scare each other. So just like hide it in cabinets so it would fall out, and then the closet so it would just like creep out. So yeah, hilarious fun was had by that figure statue.
We'll make this work. All right, so I do have a bunch of Legos around here. I'll start here. If anybody can see, nice up here.
Nice. Couple of Millennium Falcons.
No. There's a few of them.
Was that Lupin Chewie?
Huh? Yeah. And then if I go over here, oh gosh. Go over here. I do have this one that is still locked up.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah. So we got that one over here. Oh goodness. I'm getting old. Walking up and down hurts.
I was gonna say, aren't we all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except for Andrew.
Yeah. You're cute though. It counts for something. So I did a build last week because I was bored. And let me see. Oh, nobody cares about my stuff anymore.
You're a dad.
That's it. Low man on the totem pole.
Yes, sir. Oh, didn't even plug it in. Okay, good job, guys. Thanks for everything. I want new kids. New way. All right, there we go. So I did this one. So I have some artifacts here. And apparently toys. So I built this one. Enjoy the music.
Aim it down. Aim it down. All we're seeing is your ceiling.
No.
There we go.
But a fine ceiling it was, sir.
Yeah, I stepped on something. So the girls have taken over my spot. But I have these over here. If you can see them.
Yep. Very nice.
So the Darth Vader in the back is a 77. I do have the the white original there too. Bunch of other things over here. So if you can see that.
Oh yeah.
That's the size of my hand. Underneath that is the big Falcon. So that whole box is a big Falcon. I've got an airlift.
Okay.
Yeah. There's another Falcon here.
That's a big Falcon collection.
It's my favorite ship. So, like,
Hence
down
why I like
here,
to call you Chewbacca.
yeah, down here I do have the Boba Fett ship. I have the
That ship doesn't stink.
What's that?
What?
I have the trawler from Jawas. So I have Slave One. What is this? I don't even know. Oh, I bought that for $20.
Nice.
Yeah, good haul. So
I used to have a ton of Legos. I had a Star Wars Legos birthday when I was little.
Oh, nice.
So.
Dude, I've got even Pez dispensers. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, so I have 3 more of these. So I'm going to build a whole chamber out of them. TIE Fighter. I have the Y-Wing. I've got the Ghost.
Awesome.
In the corner. If you look over here, you can see that I do have the
Snow speeder.
Yeah,
awesome.
Oh yeah. Let me move Optimus head. So many things around here. So I have 2 of these. I have 2 Y-Wings. I have the original 77s.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I do also have a package of the 1980s down underneath this mess of the rest of my room. So I don't get any space anymore. But I do have plenty of things, as you can see.
That is a pretty awesome collection, man. Thank you for sharing that.
It'd be nice if I could actually show it to people. So, all right.
That was awesome. Chris, you got anything to wrap us up with?
Not really. I mean,
Not really?
it was a good day. Thanks for getting us all together.
Dude, thank you for being a part of this, man. And thank you for being a very late addition and being willing to join up with us.
Yeah, always happy.
Hey, I do have a question, Chris.
Yeah.
So you built a droid. Did you build a lightsaber while you were at Galaxy?
We didn't build a lightsaber yet. So he had the choice. He could do a droid or a lightsaber. He chose to do a droid. So the lightsaber is next time we go for that experience. But I think we'll have to do both of us because I kind of want one too. So we're gonna have to put some money back for that.
Yeah.
Just get a blaster, kid. Just get a blaster.
Right.
I was trying to figure out how I can convince Letha that I can spend $1,000 on lightsabers because each kid needs their own.
Oh yeah.
So
So now for me, it's when this Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser opens in 2023, 2024 at Disney, the hotel that they're opening.
Mm-hmm.
That's a immersive experience. How I'm going to get that one through because that's going to be I think at least a minimum $2,500 per person for the 3-day experience that you get, but it's gonna be worth it.
Like, and that experience sounds cool, but my problem is like I don't like people telling me what I can and can't do. So the fact that you have to go by the like itinerary they give you of your 3 days, you're only allowed like 8 hours in the actual park. The rest of the time you have to be in like the hotel area. Like I'm gonna have to wait and see how it plays out because like I know I'm gonna be like I'm bored. I want to go to the park. I want to go do not what you're telling me to do. Like I don't enjoy this. So I'm gonna have to see how it plays out and like what the reactions are from people. So I'll look forward to hearing from you how it actually works.
Hey Shane.
Yeah.
Yeah, they actually have created the first gen like lightsaber.
Yep.
And it's a battery pack you wear on yourself. So I'm just saying you could strap you, and if somebody gives you some shit.
There's also this engine that's that runs on water, man, and it's like nobody wants to know about it, and nobody has a lightsaber, and that's because too many douchebags out there are gonna be like, I can cut bologna real thin with that goddamn thing. Those fuckers. Has no lightsaber. They're lasers.
No,
That's
they're lasers. No, you need a fillet knife for that. If you want to cut something, it's your arm off.
Lasers. Sharks with freaking lasers on their heads.
Listen, murder hornet.
Hey,
Jay, you got any last thoughts for us?
I don't know. I just, honestly, the May the 4th with this whole situation with COVID, I'd just like us to all kind of think about how the Force, kind of connects and binds us. We're all separated, but honestly, we should be together more often, and we need to start realizing that as a people, as a whole, think about what the rebels have done. Think about the whole culture of society and how that spreads. Art should our life should imitate art, and how maybe we should start benefiting from man's humanity, man, or Wookiee, or Greedo, or what have you. But maybe these are stories. These are almost fables that should parables, if you will. They should show us how to act.
I agree with that.
And then be excellent to one another.
Party on, dude. Party on.
Agreed.
Jason, any final thoughts? Any Star Wars related stuff you want to talk about?
I think it's interesting that I cannot pronounce his name, and I'm not even trying to.
Taika Waititi.
Yeah, that dude. Yeah. That guy. He gets to do his own movie after Thor 4, so who knows when that will be.
Are you talking about
I'm interested enough. My only issue is that I don't feel like Disney has grasped the movie aspect very well yet. And I'm hoping that not that I got the magic back with 1, 2, and 3, but I felt like they were, I don't know. I felt like they were better connected to the universe than 7, 8, 9, even though I think 7, 8, 9 is a better trilogy than 1, 2, 3 personally. But I
understand.
But yeah, I'm hoping that they can grab a hold of that some kind of magic again, like they did with The Mandalorian, because The Mandalorian is my favorite thing that Disney has done for Star Wars.
Agreed.
But well, and that's the thing is like they finally brought Jon Favreau was running that, but Shane and I, when we get to work together, we always talk movies, and Star Wars almost inevitably shows up in that conversation.
Oh yeah.
And we always talked about how what makes no sense is how Marvel was smart enough to look into their future and have a guy who ran the entire operation and had his hands in absolutely every single movie. Whereas Star Wars was like, okay, JJ, you do whatever you want. And then he was done. And then he had to change the ending of his movie because the next guy wanted to do different things. It's like, why weren't they not on the same page from day one?
True answer. You own the Cubs. People are going to continue going repeatedly. So fuck all. Who cares?
And that's sad. It's sad.
But it's like the Bears too. I mean, look at, not to go sports and cross analogies, but if they were smart, I would have hired Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, and then they would have done a fantastic job creating Star Wars.
Sure.
Well, now they're talking. Now they have Kevin Feige working on the Star Wars universe in some fashion. Now it's like, why you didn't either ask him to come on board earlier or grab somebody who understood that concept, like a Jon Favreau or something,
sure,
who would just sit there and literally be just the guiding ship of hey, You can't do that because this is where we're going.
They've not done a great job about getting to the point of like this is where our mind is. This is where we're heading, and we want to go in this direction. They're like, oh, everybody do whatever you want to do. It's a playground.
I mean, because if you really think about it, Colin Trevorrow, or whatever his name is.
Hold on a second, Shane.
Yep.
And go Colts.
Yeah, go Colts. Okay. But if you think about it, Colin Trevorrow or whatever, he was supposed to direct episode 9. And so you literally were going to have a trilogy that was directed by 3 different people. And when you look at successful trilogies, like Star Wars, and I know Lucas didn't direct all 3 of the originals, but like he at least had the stories for those 3. You look at stuff like The Matrix or stuff like Back to the Future trilogy. Like the thing was, they had the same writers and directors on all 3 parts, so they could tell
the Matrix
overall story. I'm not saying the Matrix.
He didn't say it was good.
I'm not saying it was good. I'm just saying that they kept the same writers and directors.
Put your face on the screen so I can slap you.
They kept the same writers and directors so that it would have an overall arc by one person's vision. So why Kathleen Kennedy said, I'm going to get 3 different directors to come in and do 3 different things on a trilogy that's supposed to be connected never made sense to me at all.
Because they didn't want to redo Pirates of the Caribbean because Gore Verbinski is a douchebag. And to quote my favorite person out there, Ask a Ninja, could have used a lot more Gore and a lot less Verbinski.
I like that quote.
Wait, did they do like 8 of those movies or how many?
They did like 4. Dave, any last Star Wars thoughts?
Jay mentioned sports, and he didn't want to go there, but think of something other than sports that has so many different generations talking about. I mean, think about this. Right now, I'm in my 40s. There's people on the call in their 30s, Drew's in his 20s. I told you guys, my kids, Samir's kids, Chris's kids, my 6th graders, they're talking about Star Wars. So what other thing other than sports, because I could talk to my grandfather about the Red Sox way back when he was a kid but other than sports, name another movie, series that people are talking about like this. If your grandfather today went, hey, you want to go watch that old Western from, back in the 50s, you might watch it with them because you want to spend time, but it's not going to carry on these conversations, and we're doing a podcast about it. I think it's pretty remarkable that even though we, like I would say that 2 suck, and it's my least favorite, there's still redeeming qualities in 2 that we could still talk about, and people can talk about this, and they're 40 years between the youngest and the oldest person that are maybe talking about these movies. And that's pretty phenomenal if you think what Lucas did.
He definitely created something awesome.
I really like you. Hey, I hate your hat.
Oh. I can live with that. Hey, Samir, when I come out there this summer, man, we'll get together.
Oh, we're going to hang out.
And you will eat some amazing food because Samir will cook you some amazing food.
I will cook you food like nobody's business. I don't care. Come on over.
All right, Andrew.
I'm in, brother.
Andrew, wrap us up.
You're right. 100%. This is a huge part of people's lives. And I think it's really important that people understand and love what they see and what's going on. And I mean, it immerses us into one solid unit. End of the day.
Yep.
All right, Andrew, I'm coming to you last. The youngest of all of us.
Uh-oh.
Wrap us up with some Star Wars knowledge from a youngin'.
Oh, are you going to do rap?
No.
I had to kill somebody.
I would say that George Lucas did very well creating a universe that everybody loves and get around and watch these movies all together and watch these shows and everything else, and the way that he's done it over the years and them going a different way and having to do these last 3 movies to conclude the story of everything and everyone in the entire galaxy was phenomenal, but I hated episode 8 and 9. The way that it was done. That's just me. I like 1, 2, and 3. The way that they did it with the choreography was beautiful. I thought that when they showed the fighting scenes in episode 8 and 9 and 7 were so bad, because I understand they had no training whatsoever in the fighting styles, but it's just so bad.
That is a very interesting perspective to have of those films.
And it just brought down the whole room.
We're talking about the future and a new hope. And
Right.
he's just like, oh, no, we're going to bring that down.
So I just want to say personally, thank you, all 6 of you guys, for jumping on here and being willing to do this with me. I had a blast talking Star Wars with you on May 4th. Chris, thank you for jumping in at literally like 2 hours beforehand. As I told you when we were texting, when Brian had to cancel, I said, who do I know that loves Star Wars? And you were the first person that came to my mind, so I'm glad you were available. I had 3 Maiers on here with me. That was a blast to get to talk to all you guys and hear generational differences in your stories. And then Samir and Jae, thank you for giving me insight from you guys playing with Star Wars toys as kids. And it was a lot of fun to talk Star Wars with you guys today. And go ahead, Jason.
Shane, did you talk about the first film you ever made?
I did not.
Wait, is this a lightsaber duel between Jason and Shane? No.
Nope. He made it with his dad.
Yeah. So when I was
Not that
about
way.
okay, we were living in Salt Lake City. I was about 8 years old. Jason, have you actually seen the video, or have I only told you?
Nope. You just told me about
I've just told you about it. Okay. I need to get my dad to put this on digital for me so I can put it online. We built a really crappy Millennium Falcon in our basement out of literally every toy that I owned. Like the pilot seats was a desk and something else. We hung stuff up on the walls. We used my dad's record player and stuff like that as things to push buttons on when we needed to. And there are literally times where I am directing my dad while also acting in it. So I'll be like pretending I'm flying, and I've got an old video game system that when you pushed a certain button, it made like the static on screen. So I would push that button when we were going into hyperspace, and then like I would be like, oh, we're getting shot at, and I'd look straight at my dad and be like, Dad, shake the camera because we're getting shot at. There was also
sounds like an episode of the Goldbergs.
There was a time where my brother and I were having a lightsaber battle, and then he swings at me and hits me, and I start falling down the stairs, but my dad's just following me down the stairs, and I go, no, Dad, you have to shake the camera because I'm falling. And then there's another scene where Scott and I were having our lightsaber battle, and I like swung at him, and his lightsaber went flying, and he put his hand in his sleeve to make it look like I cut his arm off. And then literally like as soon as I cut it off, my brother just runs straight at the camera and goes, he didn't really cut my arm off, I just hit it in my sleeve. My brother was like 4 when we filmed this. It was hilarious. I always wanted it on digital, and thank you for reminding me so I can tell my dad I need that on digital, because the rest of the world needs to see me look like an idiot.
You have a week. Put it out.
I do. You're right. I will get a hold of my dad.
I need this in my life.
If I can get it digitally, I will toss it at the end of this episode. The other thing I might try to toss at the end of this, Jason and I in 2002, we filmed. It would have been 2002.
We filmed 2 different ones.
We filmed 2 different fight scenes in my parents' backyard, and I then took like 8 days to frame by frame add the lightsabers in, and I'm really proud of the way they looked. It's a total of about 1 minute of film. But
Shane, that should be your opening for this.
That should be my. Maybe I will throw that on the beginning of this. But if I can get my dad to get me the digital stuff, I don't know if he'll know where it is, but I will throw that stuff at the end of this if I can edit it. So thank you guys. We went a little over an hour and a half on this. I had a great time talking to you. May the 4th be with all of you guys. And if you're listening at home, may the 4th be with you.